All right. So there has been some mild controversy lately. I am technically partially to blame for inducing schizophrenia in some of my coworkers, but I am legally not responsible. Legally not responsible. And I can explain why. One, they all signed non disclosure agreements, and two, they should have known what they were getting into. I have been a computer scientist working on the Dream emulator machine for a very long time now. Basically, if you don't know what that is, you probably heard about it. The Dream emulator, you hook yourself up to an IV drip, you go unconscious, and you hook your mind up into a series of computers, and there's a back and forth between the biochemistry of the human brain emulating a dream and the computer technology emulating a game. And it basically, they utilize the power of people's dreams to induce an all around hallucination that pretty much acts like a video game. See? It's pretty clever, right? I think it's genius, but now, just because of one minor tiny screw up, everyone else, or at least my few other coworkers that were involved in this screw up, now they think, oh, it's too dangerous, we gotta sue this guy, we gotta sue me. Let me just explain this. One thing that they said in the suit against me, what did they say? They said, oh yeah, the tables were unsanitary. I clean those tables every 2 weeks. I clean them every 2 weeks. And you wanna know something? The only thing that made those tables be unsanitary, the only thing that could have made those tables be unsanitary was their own blood from the IV drip system. Their own blood, no one else's. There was designated tables for each person. So, as far as I'm concerned, does this look unsanitary to you? Looks fine to me. So let me explain what happened. To start, I was observing two of my underwing coworkers working with me at the lab. They were hooked up on the IV drip system. They were laying down on their tables, and they were hooked up into the Dream emulator. And I was watching alongside Miss Ribbons the people playing on the monitors in their Dream emulation. I did. And I was watching it, and everything was going fine. They were having fun. They had fun up until there was a single mistake. And now, the moment there's a single mistake, a single thing that they can blame me for, they all jump ship and like, oh, this guy was a nut job all along. This guy was crazy the whole time. He doesn't know what he's doing. They're the ones that repeatedly signed up and went into these machines and did these things. Allow me to explain what happened here. And part of the reason why it screwed up in the first place was because of the lead tester, Professor JJ. He came up to me. He came up to me in the real world and he said, yo, next time we hook up to the machine, can we test out that haunted house level that you've been making? I want to try it out. I want to see a new lane, So I said, okay, I'll boot up the haunted house level and we'll all go under. So me and Professor JJ got on our designated tables and loaded up into the fucking dream world, right? Should have been fine. Okay? So we're going through this haunted house. I designed it. There's a bunch of Easter eggs in there, I designed it after the various haunted houses, amusement parks I've been through as a kid. I love that sort of stuff. And it's mixed in with various horror games I found. And I made sure to put in a bunch of Easter eggs and little nods and touches to find in the re-emulated world when we're playing in a game. There was one simple mistake. One simple human mistake that was made. Let me explain. As there's a certain threshold into the haunted house level, right? As you're going up the stairs, there's a certain threshold where after the player crosses it, it's by coding, it's supposed to induce a kind of screamer. Like in video games, like in Gary's Mod, horror maps, you walk into a certain room and you get a screamer, or in YouTube videos you get a screamer. It was supposed to be like that. After all, it's a haunted house level, and I wanted to test out the limitations of the machine. Admittedly, there was a mistake. So, JJ went up the stairs, he crossed the threshold, and there was the screamer. And it was supposed to play once. Once. Show a little PNG flash right in his field of vision, and make an audible sound. The problem is, it didn't do it just once. It kept doing it over and over and over again. And so pretty much, according to what JJ described, it was pretty much his entire sensory perception was filled with warped, demonic, evil faces, and all he could hear was screaming. Now, admittedly, that's a rough spot to be in. Okay? I'm not going to deny that. I'm not. So, I see what's going on, so I try to signal. I try to signal to the I try to signal to Miss Ribbons, who is she is supposed to be the designated console observer from the real world, making sure everything's going smooth in the game world. She's supposed to be there. So I went over in the haunted house. I went over to the TV station, in the living room there. I turned it to channel 8, which is the designated communication code to talk to the people in the outside world. And I told her, yo, you got to pull us out. Something's gone wrong with Professor JJ, right? I did all the steps they were supposed to do. What happened? Miss Ribbons was slacking off. She wasn't at the monitors at the time. I didn't know this at the time, but afterwards, that's what it turned out to be the case. You check the fucking recording footage of the security camera in the fucking lab. She was dicking around with the fucking security guard in the fucking coffee lounge at this exact time. Yeah. How's that my fault? So, Professor JJ, he was sitting there at the bottom of the stairs, and he was not having it. He just wasn't able to maintain composure at this point. And I think it's on him. Like, I mean, if you're in a rough state, like, I get it, but, like, the truth of the matter is, he was really losing his gourd. Like, he was like, oh, let me out of here right now. Let me out. I can't take it. Yada, yada. And I told him, just give me some time. Give me some time, man. Chill. I told him. And so I knew I littered the whole goddamn level with Easter eggs and that sort of thing to make sure that, if there was a screw up like this, there was at least some alternative ways out. And one of the main mechanics, one of the main safety features of the Dream Emulator is that if your character dies in the game, then you wake up in the real world. So I went over to an Easter egg that I intentionally placed in the library of the haunted house. If you look in the game level, in the Anarchist Cookbook, in the library, in the haunted house level, I intentionally put a little Easter egg. If you open that up, in the library, there's a single grenade there. So I went up there, I was looking around for a while. It took me a while, I don't know how long it took. JJ was still at the bottom of the stairs. And I took the Easter egg grenade, and I undid the pin, I chucked it into my mouth, and I blew off my own head in order to activate the safety mechanism of the game. And when I woke up in the regular world, I went over to Miss Ribbons and I told her, I can't fucking believe you did that. I can't believe it. I think you should be fired right now. I didn't fire her, but I said you should have been fired for that. And I remember talking with her for a while about that. And, I got carried away, I do believe, because I was telling her for a good few minutes, like, you have a responsibility, you're all that, you're all that. You got to make sure that you're on time, you're doing your job, you should be fired for this. This is incredibly reckless. And then I left the office. Because that's what you do. It was time to go. I checked the times, like, all right, time to go. And I left. When we got there the next day, we did realize, we realized we may have left JJ in the machine for the entire night. And that was bad. To be fair. That was not good. But to be fair, that was more Miss Ribbons' fault and not mine. So after we got him out of there, he's still throwing a hissy fit about it after we even wake him up and all that. And he's pretending, acting like this point, like he doesn't know what's real. He's just covering his face and all that. He hobbles off the table, starts crying in the corner. And I'm like, dude, you gotta fucking get it together here. And now he's suing me. Now he's suing me for inducing schizophrenia, which I don't necessarily buy, by the way. I don't see how that would induce schizophrenia. And needless to say, like I said, signed a non-disclosure agreement. Period. That's my rebuttal. Okay? Non-disclosure agreement. Period. That settles that to me, as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you don't mind, progress will continue with the Dream Emulator. JJ is not going to shut down this operation, and he can go take his lawsuit and his schizophrenia and stuff it for all I care. And I don't care. So, make of that as you will. Fuck you, JJ. Fuck you, Miss Ribbons, for fucking up, but you're still hired because you are, for the most part, a competent employee. And, last but not leastly, Professor JJ, if at any time you want to come back and help us work on this, you're allowed to. I know you probably still have problems and you might not want to, but we do need more workers that are qualified, and it's hard to find them. So if you are able to come down next week and we'll get you right hooked up into the machine again, we could put all this behind us. I'm just saying. So, anyways, Yeah, it looks like the Dream Emulator is going to be taking a few more years of development, but as it is, I don't think that it's off track. I don't think it's off track, and I think that once we get the last few kinks worked out with it, then it'll be ready for public use. And like I said, last time they signed the fucking non-disclosure agreement. They knew what they were getting into. They knew exactly what they fucking get into. So don't blame me. Don't blame me.